Hello everyone, welcome to my Java tutorial. And from this tutorial onwards, we are going to start off with a project, that is the banking application. Okay. Now before I get into the actual application, there is one more concept which I wanted to teach you all, and that is how to take input from the user. Okay. So we are going to need this in our project, so I'll explain it now. Now for taking input from a user, we have a class called as scanner. So I'll create a scanner object first, equal to new scanner, and inside that I write system.in. Now scanner class is not defined anywhere over here, so we'll have to import that class, right? So for importing, we have to click over here and say import. Okay, so it will be taken from the library. Let's click it. Yes. So this is the package Java. Inside that we have another package util, and inside that we have a scanner class. Okay, so we have imported that, right? So we have the scanner object ready. Now what I'll do is I'll first try to take integer values from the user, and for doing that I'll just write int a is equal to scanner dot next int. Okay, yes. So that's done, and I'll just print the value of this variable is equal to a. Okay, so let's run this program, and again there's no message asking for like entering the number, so I'll just display a message over here so that we'll come to know that we have to enter a number. Okay, yes. Now let's run this, and yes, I'll enter a number over here and I press enter. So as you can see, we got the number over here. Okay, so this is the way of taking an integer value as a input from the user. Now next is I'll just take a character as input from the user, and for taking a character we have to do something like this. So char c is equal to scanner dot next. Okay, now this function, it will take an entire string as a input, right? But we don't want the entire string, we are interested only in the character, and for doing that we have something called as char at, and here we specify the index. Okay, and what this means is, for example, if we have a string ABC, then this A will be at index 0, B will be at index 1, C will be at index 2, right? And we are interested only in the first character, and that is why I've mentioned char at 0, which means get me the first character, right? So that is the way of taking a single character as an input from the user. Okay, now I'll just change it to char, and again I'll print it. Equal to plus C. Okay, so let's run this. Enter character, I'll enter A, and yes, as you can see, the character is displayed on the screen. So yes guys, this is the way you take input from the user from the console. Okay, so that's it for now. From next tutorial onwards, we'll start off with the actual application. So see you in the next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome to my Java tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to start off with our banking application. Now before I start, I'll just give you an overview of what our application will actually do. Okay, so this application will first display a welcome message to the user with his or her name. Then it will display 5 options to the user, that is check balance, deposit, withdraw, check previous transaction, and exit. Okay, after that the user will be allowed to make a choice, and as the user selects the options, the corresponding functionality will be executed. Okay, so this is the overall functionality of the application. Now yes, and all these operations which I talked about, these operations are going to happen on some bank account, right? So that is the reason why I've created a class bank account. So all the operations which I talked about, those will be happening on some bank account. Now let's start off. See, as you can see, I have created a bank account class which is having 4 variables. Now I'll just explain what they are actually. So this is the balance, which is the money which you have in your account. Then previous transaction which indicates whether the last amount which is withdrawn or deposited, then the customer's name and the customer's ID. Now let's start off with the first method, which is deposit. Now this method deposit takes one integer variable as parameter, which is the amount, because we are going to deposit some amount, right? So it will take that amount as parameter. Now we don't want to unnecessarily perform the operations if the value which is entered is 0. Okay, so that is why I'm making a check over here. If amount is not equal to 0, then only do this, right? So what it will do is balance is equal to balance plus amount. That is, it is going to increment the balance with this amount, right? Yeah, and then in the previous transaction I'll load the amount because I am interested in knowing what amount is deposited or withdrawn. That is why I'm just assigning this value to this variable. Okay, now next method is the withdraw method. Now again we have to know how much amount has to be withdrawn, so that is the reason why this method also takes one integer parameter. Now again the same thing, we don't want to withdraw 0 from the balance because it is it doesn't make any sense. So that is why I'm making a check over here if amount not equal to 0, and then what it will do is balance is equal to balance minus amount. So it will deduct the amount from our balance, and in the previous transaction I'll mention minus amount. Now why this minus? Because we are withdrawing an amount from here, right? So to indicate withdraw, I have kept a minus symbol over here. Okay, yes. So two methods are done. Now next is get previous transaction. This method will return us a message which will either tell deposited some amount or withdrawn some amount, right? So for doing that, I'll just make a check over here. If it is greater than 0, which means the amount is deposited, right? Because here, as you can see, positive amount means deposited. If it is greater than 0, that is if the amount is, if the previous transaction is positive, then deposited and the value, right? So if I deposit 1000, then it will display deposited 1000, right? Then second condition is if it is negative, that means if I have withdrawn some amount. As you can see here, the negative operator. Yeah. Now in that case, what will happen? Withdrawn. Yes. Now here, if I would have directly written the previous transaction variable, then it would print something like withdrawn minus 1000, which doesn't look good, right? That is why I've used this method absolute. And what this will do is it will just take any value and give us the positive of it, right? If we give minus, then it will give plus. Okay, if we give it a negative value, then it will give us a positive value of it, right? So that is the function of this absolute method. It will give us the positive value. So in this case, what will be displayed is withdrawn 1000 and not withdrawn minus 1000, right? Now, else if any of these conditions don't match, then no transaction occurred, right? Yes, so that is the get previous transaction method. Now the next method is show menu. So this method is going to show or display the menu in front of the user, and that is quite a long procedure, so we'll see that in the next tutorial. So thank you for now, and we'll continue this in the next tutorial. See you guys. Hello everyone, welcome to my Java tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to continue with our banking application. So let's begin. Now in the previous tutorial we saw this class bank account, and we saw 3 of its methods, that is deposit, withdraw and get previous transaction, and there is one method which is left, and that is show menu. Now before I go into the show menu method, there is one more thing which I want to add in this class, and that is a constructor. Okay, so bank account, and as you know, constructor has the same name as that of the class, and it has no return type. So I'll take 2 values as parameters. Okay, so CNAME, which is the customer name, and CID, which is the customer ID. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, while creating the object of bank account, I'm going to pass 2 values in its constructor, that is the customer's name and ID. And why are we going to do this? Because we'll be needing these values while displaying the welcome message for the user. Okay, so here what I'll do is I'll just assign these values. Okay, equal to CNAME and customer ID is equal to CID. Okay, so let's save it. Yeah, so this is done. Now let's move on to the show menu method. Now inside the show menu method, what we are going to do is we are going to display a menu, right? And before that, we also want to display a welcome message, right? So I'll just start off with the first line. So in the first line, I've created a char variable which I've initialized to some value. Again, don't worry about this value. It is just like how we initialize integer with 0. Similarly, we initialize a char with this value. Okay, you can initialize it with any value which you want, right? Now this is the scanner, and we have already seen what a scanner does. It is used to take user input from the console. Okay, so I've created a scanner object over here. Now these two lines are for displaying the welcome message. So what it will display? It will display welcome and then concatenate it with the customer name, right? Then your ID is customer ID. So these two variables we are going to initialize via this constructor. Okay. Yeah. Now let's move on. Now this statement, it includes a line break, which means that it will display a space of line. Okay. It is just for making the application look good, right? So after these two lines, there will be a space, and after that, these options will be displayed. So as you can see, there are 5 options: check balance, deposit, withdraw, previous transaction, and exit. Now, after that, we have the do while loop. Now you already know what a do while loop does. So it means that do this set of statements while option not equal to E. And why is that? Because E stands for exit. So whenever the user clicks on exit, or whenever the user enters E, this loop will break and the user will come out of the loop, and this message will be displayed: thank you for using our services, right? Now I'll explain what is there inside the while loop. Do while loop. Okay, now let's begin. So this first statement is just some for display purposes. Then we have enter option, and then again a line, right? Then after that, I'm just reading a character from the console. So the user will be entering some character over here, which we are going to capture in the option variable. Okay. Now I'm passing this option variable in the switch case, right? Now we also know how a switch case works. So this variable will be compared with each of the cases, right? And wherever it finds a match, it will execute the corresponding code. Now, for example, if I enter A as the option, then this case will be matched and this code will be executed, and so on, right? So let us consider the first case. Now in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to display the balance. So for doing that, this is just for display purpose, and here what I'll say is balance is equal to balance. So this is the variable which I'm printing. Okay, and again we have a line break over here. Yeah, so that's it. So it's quite simple. The next one is deposit. Now for depositing, I'll need the amount which we want to deposit. So I'll ask the user enter an amount to deposit, and then we'll use the scanner object to take the input, and the value which we get, we'll place it in a variable amount, right? Now once we get that, we'll just pass that variable amount in the deposit method. So this amount will be taken by the deposit method, and then it will perform its operations. And we've already seen how it works, right? Yes. And after that, there is again a line break. Yeah. And yeah, this break is required because it is part of the syntax of the switch case, right? So again here, this break is required, even here. Right. Now let us consider the next case, which is C. Now what C says is withdraw. Okay. Now again we are going to do the same thing. So we will first ask for the amount which we want to withdraw. Then we'll take the amount from the console, and then we'll pass that amount in the withdraw method. And again the withdraw method will take the amount and deduct it from the balance, right? So and also set the value of the previous transaction. We have already seen how it works. Now let's move on. Yes, so the next case is previous transaction. Now in this case, it will just call this get previous transaction method, and also we have seen that method, right, how it works. Now the final case is default, which means that if we enter some character which does not belong to any of these cases, right? For example, if we enter F, which is not present in any of these cases, then it will display this message, right? Which says invalid option, please enter again. Okay. So this is the way it works. As long as the user doesn't enter E, this loop will go on executing. So it will keep on asking the user for entering a value, okay, or entering an option, right? The moment the user enters E, this loop will break and the user will see this message. Okay. So this is the way our program or application works. In the next tutorial, we'll run this program and see if everything works fine. So thank you guys. See you in my next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome back. Now in this tutorial, we are going to run this banking application. Okay. Now before running, I found out one thing over here. I think I missed one case, which is case E, right? Now as you can see, whenever the user enters E as the option, it won't find it over here, and as a result it will display this message which says invalid option, but actually E is a valid option, right? So I'll have to add a case over here. Case E, and then we'll display some message, probably a line of stars. Yes, and after that break. Okay. Sorry. Yes, so now it's done, right? Okay, now we have to run this application. Now for running, we'll have to create an object of bank account. And as you can see, I've already created an object of bank account over here, and I've passed 2 values in its constructor. Okay, so what will happen is whenever I create an object, this constructor will be invoked and it will load these 2 values into these variables, right? So this is the customer name and this is the customer ID. And after that, I'm just invoking the show menu method. Okay, so let's run this program. And I've double clicked on this console to get a better view. Now let's run this. And yes, as you can see, we got a welcome message over here. Welcome XYZ, and your ID is so and so. Okay, and after that, we see 5 options. Now I'll just enter option A to see my balance. Now yes, as you can see, initially the balance is 0. Now I'll probably deposit some amount. So I'll enter B, and it is asking me to enter an amount. So I'll enter, let's say 10,000. Now this amount is getting deposited, but we couldn't see the effect. So I'll just enter this D option, which says previous transaction. And yes, as you can see, it displays deposited 10,000. But I'll still check my balance and confirm if I actually got the balance correct. Okay, so I'll enter A, and again, yes, I can see my balance is incremented. So the amount actually got deposited into my account. Now I'll try to withdraw some amount. So for withdraw, we have option C. So I'll enter C, and then it will ask me how much amount I want to withdraw. Let's say 1,000. Okay, and again I'll check the previous transaction by D, and it says withdrawn 1,000. Okay, and I'll check my balance. It should be 9,000, and yes, balance is equal to 9,000. So that's it.